Hey, I'm Bill Fanter, founder of Options Action, and you're watching the weekly watch list. If you'd like to get access to this content before it goes live on YouTube, just hit the first link in the description to sign up for our free weekly emails. All right, let's jump right in.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. So this is going to be the weekly watch list for Monday, September 29th. But before I go through what I'm watching, I've heard from many of you asking me to do a trade recap from the trade that I took on Friday, right out of the gate after the market opened, that went up over 100% in less than 2 minutes. And the question is, well, Bill, what were you watching and how did you know? Okay, so let's just go back in time and look at a couple of things that I posted within the Discord. So first and foremost, at 5:32 in the morning, PCE inflation data for August came in at the same level as the prior month, which shows inflation is not going higher. Okay, remember, what are the Federal Reserve's two mandates? Inflation, unemployment. Okay, those are the two things they're got their eyes on. On top of that, personal spending was higher than expected, which means the consumer is still buying more goods and services than the market thought was possible. Okay, so inflation is not going up and people are still spending, right? They're traveling, they're buying goods and services, they're buying cars, they're not letting the tariffs have any negative impact as everybody expected. So we have very positive market news. So let's look at it just on the charts, okay? That news comes out in the morning, 5:30, right? I timestamped it. So this is the beauty about Discord, right? I timestamp it. I mean, literally the news dropped at 5:30. I typed it 2 minutes later. So you can then watch what happens at 5:30 on my charts. So right here, okay? We have really good inflation numbers. We have really good consumer spending. Where did the market stop on SPY? Right at my price level, 661.04. Went a little tad over it, but not much, right? What did QQQ do? Same exact time frame. Here we're at 5:30. Okay, let me just pull this down a little. The data comes out. Look at where we go. Right up to the next liquidity level. Again, remember the way that I trade level to level. I just trade off of a daily 4-hour, 1-hour time frame. Where does the market observe liquidity? Then what happens after that? So there's no more news. There's nothing else that would really deter the market after the data dropped. And what does the market do? Trickles all the way back down here to a price level for QQQ, okay, at 594. So this is where we started on the morning. News comes out, and then what do? Pre-market, they trickle it down. What happens with SPY? They trickle it down, okay? The market opens. So we're on a 1-minute time frame here. So again, all the news was very positive. There was no reason to have a bearish sentiment. Okay, so what happens? First candle, market open on a 1-minute time frame, pushes all the way down almost to my price level. Now, the 1 minute on SPY clearly pressed down to the price level and hit it. Then we get our next opening candle. This candle opens red, pushes down to the 200 SMA on SPY, and on QQQ, we're about to touch the level, right? My level was at 592.86. This candle low was 592.96, so I'm off 10 cents. Now, ideally, I'd love to see this level touch, this 200 SMA, and then the reversal. But at the same time, let's also watch what's happening with volatility. Volatility on that exact same candle, right, is now dropping back below my price level. Okay, so again, I chart the VIX just like I chart an individual name. There's no reason not to. So pre-market, right, VIX is popping higher. Okay, this is in the pre-market. And then what happens? The market opens and then the VIX drops. Now, mind you, the VIX, the 9 was below the 21. Here, we also had the same thing. But I'm going to ask you to go and look at the futures data on a 5-minute time frame. The futures data on a 5-minute time frame, right? This was news, pushed up, we came back down. Now, the futures for ES and NQ was bullish. The 9 was above the 21. We're above VWAP, right? Pre-market here on NQ, the center one, was holding this price level. They pushed it all the way up to this liquidity level right here. And then they sold it off. So then the market opens. Now this is on a 5-minute time frame. So I'm watching the higher structure of the market where it essentially goes red and I get in on this candle, this buying candle. So in front of me are my 1-minute charts, but to the left of me are my 5-minute charts. Okay, what are we doing? We're holding VWAP here with SPY, and then we are getting this aggressive buy. Now, why would I not have wanted to be short on the open? Well, it's really simple. Let's look at this. Look at all these buyers that are here, guys. I mean, tons and tons of buyers. There's no sellers down here, right? So as soon as we started to dip into the buying pool, we just narrowly missed it here in ES. This market just bought that up and ripped. So that's why I'm watching price levels in ES. That's why I'm watching price levels in SPY and Q as well as QQQ. So my indicator said we should be buying this dip because this makes no sense. And ironically, I bought the QQQ calls, okay? And then where did I take profits? I took profits right here after this trade went up over 100%, right here in this area. Let me draw it for you so you can see exactly where it is that I took profits. And I'm going to tell you why I took profits right here, okay? So the reason is look what was happening with SPY. It was hitting its level. So I trade with confluence. Now I could have left a runner, right, to go higher, but we were consolidating for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes. And I would also run the risk that I could, right, potentially could, risk management, get a push up and then a hard reject to actually go lower, okay? So I decided, it was up over 100%, I'm just going to take the money off the table. Now, mind you, if I would have taken SPY, I would have had a much better ROI. Why? Because it went right back to its prior liquidity level here, okay, pre-market, whereas I was hoping that we were going to get that with QQQ, which we did not, right? We got this consolidate, right? Drop right back down to liquidity, right here, 594.54, and then it finally made its move up, okay? So you could have gotten in a second trade here if you wanted to buy at 594.54, okay? So candle closed below the level, then I would consider stopping out of it. But what did it do? Bounced the 200, went up. This at the same time is bouncing VWAP and making its next leg higher. Now, that was trade number 1 that went up over 100%. My second trade that I took was a classic textbook fib reject, okay? So watch. Pivot high, okay? All the way down to the pivot low, right here. I then took puts right here for another $1,700 winning trade. Okay, the first one was $13,500. Then took another $1,700 winning trade here with less contracts to literally, we rejected right in the golden zone between the 50, the 618 fib. We are rejecting off of VWAP, and where did it go to? Back to the liquidity level that I already had on my charts, okay? And then what's happening is we're hitting here. We are now stabilizing right here on SPY. And that's how you knew that the market did not want to go lower, did not want to go lower, did not want to go lower. Same thing here, right? Did not want to go lower, did not want to go lower. And then therefore, it moves and makes its way all the way back up here to 594. As the day progressed, where did it go back to? 596. Look we tested 596, came down, grabbed liquidity, go up. 596, come down, grab way more liquidity, come all the way back up to 596. And then that's kind of where the, day finished off. But I was done right on the onset because I wasn't going to chase the market down, right? That would have been a huge mistake to take puts. You could have, right? But why would you when the news was positive and the market reacted positive? So remember, the market makers are not buying and selling in the pre-market, clearly with SPY and QQQ, because you can't buy options till the market opens. Just watching the overall volume flow in the futures, even on this push down, look at how the volume was decreasing as we're coming into the open, right? And then the market opens, you get this huge volume candle, momentum to the downside, and then the reversal And same thing here. Look at this volume candle. Let me go ahead and turn off the supply and demand. Okay. So look at this volume candle. Monstrosity. Same thing here. You can just see the buyers stepping in and buying this thing up super, super fast. I apologize. Let me turn that off. Here we go. Look at this volume candle, right? And then again, another huge volume candle on the reversal. So if you caught the reversal coming back down, right, so be it. I did not, right? No big deal. So a lot of this just has to do with patience, waiting for your trade. Volatility was cooperating all at the exact same time. Okay, same thing here, right? You're going to reject this level up here, right? This candle high, this candle wick highs. You're approaching liquidity in the futures. That's why we're watching this. And what is volatility doing? Look at this huge, massive doji candle in VIX. And where'd it go all the way up to? Into supply. What's it do? Reject the 200 SMA, comes down. What does the market do ultimately? Holds support, pushes higher. Okay, so zoom out, watch your futures on your 5-minute, VIX on your 5-minute, take your trades on the 1 minute, okay? Because that's going to give you your sniper entry to catch it at the exact right level. So that was the trade. Hopefully this helps you guys. I would highly encourage you to get the supply and demand indicator if you're not using it. Make sure that you're watching the Discord. What am I talking about? What am I posting pre-market? And then I told you exactly when the market opened, what I was going to be watching. And I said, I would not be bearish. I am bullish. I am loading calls. I already had the calls loaded, so I was ready to go. Okay, cool. Let's take a look at a couple of the charts. I'm not going to do a ton today, but we'll go through about 6 or 7 of just the large ones. So you can see here, right, lots of consolidation at these all-time highs. I did add a couple new levels, so check your levels against mine. Let me tell you why I made a couple of changes. First and foremost, I have a few blue lines that I've added as interim levels on a lower time frame. So these are typically on a 15-minute time frame, and you can see exactly why. So pre-market, we push up, we sell off. Pre-market, we push up, we sell off, right? Pre-market, we push up, sell off, okay? So that's one level where I'm watching a blue line and not a yellow because it's pre-market, and volume is usually lighter in the pre-market. So I want to be cognizant of it, but I don't necessarily want to take it as a guaranteed price level, okay? It's an area I'm going to watch and be aware of. Same thing here. Look at this. Pre-market push up, sell off. This one actually on the market open pushed up, sold off. Now we're at pre-market selling off. So I really want to watch this interim price level here off these candle wick highs to say, can we get above this to go higher up to the next level? Now, mind you, right, we are in a fair amount of low level liquidity demand. It's not like there's a ton of buyers like we had down here on Friday's trade, right? So this is going to be definitely more dicey. So this one, just pay attention to where the price levels are at. Again, I think it makes sense to watch the pre-market, but I don't take a trade off of pre-market high or pre-market low, but I do have them marked, okay? So I can see where they're at. So this is the one thing that we'll keep an eye on for Monday morning. Let's take a look, and I'm going to go back to a higher level, and we're going to go to QQQ. Same exact thing. I cleaned up a couple of my levels here. I just want to be able to watch how these new levels observe. Clearly, we're in a fair amount of demand. We have some sellers, but not a ton. So now what we're going to watch here is, can we get back above this 596.20 level? So I'm going to go down to a 1 hour time frame, and this one's been a little bit more wonky, right? Tech has been hot, cold. There's definitely been some overall volatility to this, but kind of watching this 596 level. So on a 1 hour time frame, right, this is where it was pre-market high, and then you can see these candles basing here, right? And then you get the tops of the candles failing here, and then a couple wicks were struggling. The other thing I would be watching here as well is going to be a fib retracement. Okay, so this is something we should keep an eye on. The big market news is going to be, is the government going to shut down, and are there going to be massive layoffs? And we'll know that within the next few days. So we are approaching the golden zone, but on a 1 hour time frame, right? We had some solid buying going into the close, even knowing that this news was going to happen. So do watch this fib level. I'm going to save this. And we'll just see how it plays out, right? All-time highs, okay? Market all-time highs to a pivot dip. And you could do this on whatever time frame you want, right? You could do it, the daily is probably one of the easier ones to do it on, or a 4-hour. You could do it on a 15-minute time frame. But let's keep this in mind. And then again, right, we have a lot of sellers here, a fair amount of sellers, also a fair amount of buyers. So we have a somewhat balanced market. But I'm going to keep that level for tomorrow morning, Monday live trading. Okay. Let's take a look at a few individual names. Apple. Apple has had a ton of relative strength. So if you've tried to short this, it's been somewhat difficult because they just buy it right up. But you can see the exact same thing is happening here, guys, right? So we're between price levels. If I want to throw in an interim level, right, I would probably want to see, where do we got to really get above? And it seems to be, let me go ahead and pop this here, right about there, right? 257.39, candle high right here was 257.38. We missed it by a penny. This candle here was obviously the 257.39. That's where we wicked out at. So should be the top of that candle, okay? So we really, right, you can see they push it up almost here, and then they start to pull it down, grab a little bit, sell side liquidity to push lower. But we're trading between these levels, so I wouldn't be, too anxious to go long. I do like calls if we get down here to 253. If we could fail the 253, then possibly, taking the short, but just be prepared on these, because once this has been dipping, right, they are buying it up pretty darn quick. So I'm going to go ahead and add a price level right here of 251, because I have way more than enough room to get down to 248. But again, this is where I would be watching. But the market structure here is bullish, right? Pulling back up to liquidity, pulling down, next leg higher. So I would not really be trying to short this thing. And then again, I would not be going long either, because Monday morning, we'll see what happens. But you see how they're pushing up to these candles, right? And then we're coming down, and then we're holding, we're basing, and now we just need to wait and see what's going to happen here. So that's Apple and how I would look at that. Amazon is still in a downtrend. I think I talked about this last week. It's still trending lower. It's really not making new highs. So over the week, we're still trending lower. We're kind of holding water right here between this 218 and 221. Don't really see anything too exciting on this one that I like to trade. So for me, I'd probably stay away from it, in all honesty, unless I could get back above 222 to go higher to 225. But trying to take, puts in this thing, again, puts are best up here at 222, not this interim price level that I have here that just kind of keeps holding, because as soon as they get below it, they buy it up, right? They just barely get below it, they buy it up. Here they let it go lower, but don't play around with that. It's not beneficial. Microsoft, again, a lot of consolidation. Love this bounce to this 506 level, right? They've bounced it, right? Bounced it. Stop loss would be below, 504.93, where you can see was, last line of resort where they really bought it up hard. But this would be an early entry area. Don't necessarily like puts here. Looks like we're going to have to resolve one way or the other, to the upside or to the downside. But we're just kind of oscillating right here within these narrow, but yet, decent highs. So keep an eye on this, possibly to go long, but I'm not really too bearish on Microsoft. Again, we have all these buyers here, sellers. So when I trade, I like to have equidistance between my sellers up here, my buyers all the way down here, so I can get price to move. But when they're on top of one another, then what you typically get is you just get a lot of fighting back and forth, one way or the other. So, okay. Oh, let's take a look at Google. Same thing, we're holding this 246 level. So that I do like, and they pushed it up multiple times. Unfortunately, it was pre-market in almost all these scenarios, right? Or post-market, right on the pre-market, and then sold off and keep coming back down to this 246. We did have a gap here. I'm going to go ahead and remove this. The gap did close, meaning all the candles have gone through the gap. Again, gaps are only charted on a daily time frame. So we'll go ahead and remove that gap. You can see we got a pretty good line in the sand here where this thing is holding price. Let's just do this visually because I think it's always helpful, right? That when you throw a fib in, does it align? Well, my 50 fib is below my price level. My 618 is way below. But what I would love to have seen is my 50 is right on my price target, okay? So the reason it's not is because I used this pivot low here where they bought up the liquidity really hard, taking it back to almost new all-time highs. So for right now, this 246.24 looks like a good level to hold for calls. Let's take a look at Tesla. Tesla's been kind of a wild ride. Some selling and then, consolidation throughout the week. And then they are now buying this up. This one I would watch. Do they try to push that 450 level? Again, these contracts are always super, super expensive. So be careful with these. You typically got to go a little bit more out of the money. But we need to see this price level of 440 hold for it to go to 444, 452 to the upside. We're pretty much right back where we were last Tuesday, or we're getting there, right? They got a good push on Monday, but then it just sold off. They ran it hard Wednesday pre-market, and then just sold pre-market really hard, right? You didn't even get a chance to go short on this thing because this thing happened literally overnight, okay? So a lot of buyers stepped in and picked it back up to the upside. And let's take a look one more, NVIDIA. NVIDIA, this one I'm kind of 50-50 on. So what I don't like with NVIDIA is that it keeps basing at these levels, these price levels, and it's not able to make any new highs. So there's a lot of consolidation here. And yeah, you can get some good winning trades out of it, right? But what I don't like is that at some point in time, if it doesn't break out, the buyers are going to get exhausted and then we're going to probably push lower, which is what I would ideally like to see, right? A buy price down here is really obviously solid at 164. It's had some news events and then they sell the news, right? It has some news events and then they sell the news. So therefore, it's concerning that they will have a news event and then they just sell right into this thing. So kind of be a little bit cautious with this one. 177 has been a great level to trade off of multiple times, right? We reject it, we wick, we push. This was a prior pivot all-time high before it got above this level. Okay, so that's kind of why I've been watching this level. And it just keeps oscillating around this 177 over and over and over again. But you can see that this is going to have to resolve itself, right? So let's do a couple of trend lines just really quick. So we could just go ahead and watch this, okay? And then we're going to watch this one here. And I want to see what this is going to do, right? So if we can break above, right, I think you get some movement up or pull down to go higher. But if we break this, we're going to want to watch to see, can we go lower? So I'm going to keep these trend lines on and see what the market gives us on Monday morning. And then one last one, kind of a wild card that I think has some good potential to the upside, Celsius Holdings. This one has been, decimated over time. Clearly, we have a gap fill box to the downside, but I like this one with momentum to the upside. And so here's the reason why. We have a gap fill below, which you could use as a longer term stop loss, but you have this point in time where you're finding some consolidation here at the 50 level. It's already pushed up. This would have been great for some calls, right, on Thursday and just roll them into Friday. But I think this move is going to continue higher. Again, once this thing gets, the Reddit crowd and a lot of good news going in its direction, we can definitely push to the upside. So keep an eye on this one. I'm going to go ahead and throw in here an interim price level that I like. And here's the reason why. It's actually right kind of where the stock is trading, give or take. And so here, when I'm watching this, let me go to a higher time frame. A really strong, solid pivot here, okay? Really strong pivot, right? They brought it down, pivot hard, buy it up. Here they failed it, but for a very short period of time. And then kind of here is where we rejected it. And then we got this huge flush lower. Well, we're getting back above this price level here of 54.56. So I think if this can hold, I'm going to watch this for possibly a long position and let it ride the week out. And then where would I let it go up to? Ideally, a prior pivot high somewhere up in this range up here. $57 I think would be a good target. Let me take a look on a higher time frame. I don't see a whole heck of a lot of resistance, although what we should do, right, is just for narrative, and let me do this on a 4-hour time frame. I'm going to take a fib from the pivot high, and we're going to want to make sure we can clear the fibs. Okay, it's going to be important. But if you can clear the golden zone, right, or the 618, it's typically going to the 786. So you can see on a higher time frame from a pivot high to a pivot low, it did not reject this drop. Okay, so that is bullish. So if we could get above, 54.75, I think 55.97 is a good first price target, and then a prior pivot up here to the 4-hour high. So let's watch this one, and we'll see how this plays out. So hopefully this helped. If there's anything I can answer, please feel free to ask. But again, a couple recommendations are going to be watch your futures and VIX on a 5-minute, watch your individual entries on a 1-minute, look at the higher time frame structure, make sure you're using supply and demand. I think it just gives you a great guideline as to directionally where we're going. And then be sure to join us in the Discord community. I mean, we have, 6 phenomenal analysts that are calling out so many winning trades that it's sickening when you think about it, right? Whether it's Bryce, Gus, Anthony, USC Iceman, Flint, SPX. I mean, how do you not get these gains every day? One loser, 4 huge winners, 131%, 36%, 54%. And that's the power of options. And if you don't know how to trade options, then jump into the Learn on Your Own masterclass that's on my website at billfanter.com. But stop watching and let's start getting active. Because when you're focused in on building the skill, the amount of money you can make if you run this like a business is unimaginable. And we got an entire community here to help. So with that, everybody, have a great Sunday, and I will see you tomorrow morning for live trading. Take care.
Thanks for watching. If you haven't already done so, make sure you sign up for the free weekly Watchlist emails to get early access before the video drops here on YouTube. See you next time.